Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Collider Games podcast. My name's Dennis Zinn. I'm in studio with
Josh Weyers.
Yes, and also back again. You've been demanding it. He's been gone for a little while. Caboose, how are you doing?
Doing good. Happy to be back. Thank you to all the people commenting and wondering where I was. I didn't die.
Yeah.
And yeah. I'm happy
Or
to be back.
we didn't have a big falling out. You know, like usually when people like, usually when it's like someone's gone for a while, it's like,
What happened?
what happened? Did they get in a big fight with?
Where's the drama?
Exactly.
Yeah, I got into a huge argument with Dorian about Parks and Rec versus The Office.
Yes.
And
It was brutal.
he upset me so much that I didn't want to come back, but Dennis convinced me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys didn't
because
want
I told him we both are on Team Office, so. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So this week of news, I would say, is pretty light in terms of video game news.
Yeah, there's not been much.
Not anything big. I mean, we have something bigger to discuss later in this rundown. But in terms of like actual video game, like a big trailer, or a big announcement, or a big this or that.
Yeah, besides some of the No Man's Sky news I saw, that was about it.
Right.
And that was just talking about their new Beyond update, which is going to be, I think, 32 players instead of just like 4 players, which will be a lot more fun, I guess. But we're not talking about that today.
It's evolved.
Huh?
Since its launch.
Oh,
No
how
Man's
it's
Sky,
evolved?
crazy how much it's evolved.
It's definitely got a lot better. I know it's still not for most people. I was having this conversation with Devon and Jack, and it's still at the end of the day a resource management game. If you're not into that, you're not into that. That's
Right.
It's not going to change. If you don't like Minecraft, if you don't like the whole survival aspect, yeah. But I mean, it's going to be more fun, I think, to see like cities of people. I mean, if you can now have 32 people on one server, that's going to be really cool.
No, that is cool.
Aren't they porting it over to VR as well?
That's going to be the biggest game change for them, I think, because the immersion of that game with VR it's looking really good. Also, you can ride giant crabs now. I don't know how I feel about that, but it looks entertaining.
All right, let's get on to the first topic here. Halo Infinite will on Xbox One. You know, it's supposed to be a launch title for whatever they're going to call Project Scarlet in the future. Will still look great according to Halo Boss. So, yeah. So this is supposed to be a flagship title for the next Xbox, which is the boss. Let's say franchise development director Frank O'Connor says the game will still play and look fantastic on the Xbox One. What do you guys think about this? I mean, it's one of those weird things where it's like they've got to pump up this next generation console, right?
For sure, yeah.
And this next generation title, but at the same time, the installed base for Xbox One is obviously much bigger than whatever the Project Scarlet's going to be within its first year of launch. So they're trying to sell those copies too. So they're like, hey, this console is so awesome and great. It's way better than the one this generation, so you got to go out and buy it. But guess what? The one that we made for this one, it's still pretty good. You know what I mean? They're caught in that in-between
It's kind of like the GTA 5 between the whole PS3 and PS4. That console leap, you know what I mean? Like GTA 5 looked great on the PS3.
Yeah.
It obviously just looked way better on the PS4 with.
And then they added the first-person mode. Was first-person mode in the previous generation?
No, that was
consoles,
PS4.
Or was that like a next-gen thing?
That was next gen. That was PS4.
Okay, yeah. Right.
I don't know if they put I know there was an update that came out on the PS4. I don't know if they updated the PS3 with that as well. But I know they added like way more trees, way more animals, way more bushes because it could handle a lot more,
Yeah.
So the immersion's a lot better.
Yeah, this is really interesting. This is a tough question to answer if you're someone working at Xbox talking about Halo Infinite, because when they announced Halo Infinite at the Microsoft conference, it seemed like they were building it up like this is going to be a launch title for the Scarlet. This is going to be your incentive to get the next generation console, But when they say something like this to the average consumer, they're going to be like, well, if I can just get it on the console that I already have, I don't need to spend the money on the brand new one.
And it's coming out on PC, which is like, that's
day one.
Day one,
right.
yeah.
Right. Which I think is a good thing. I think overall, just in terms of sales and just how good this game can potentially look, it's awesome that it's launching on PC. I'm so glad that Halo has found a home on PC. But yeah, this is really interesting. it's hard to answer this question without essentially kind of like shooting yourself in the foot about it,
Yeah,
because
no one knows the future.
Scarlets.
Yeah.
But how can you, right? You want to still maintain this family of Xbox One consoles that games will continue to come out on. I mean, the One X, I'm sure, is still going to be very powerful, and I'm guessing that Halo Infinite is still going to look incredible on it. So it all depends now. How much more of an incentive am I going to have to get the Scarlet for Halo Infinite? What's the sales pitch to me to be like, this is why you should get this console for this game? I wonder what that plan is.
Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of leads into another thing that I wanted to talk about that's related to this, is that Phil Spencer, he promises that more single-player games will be on the platform. And I'm thinking he's thinking more of the Scarlet than Xbox One. Because Xbox One is, almost ending its
cycle.
Running
and all those new studios that they purchased, like even like Obsidian, who obviously I've been talking about the Outer Worlds. Obviously, that's going to be multi-platform, but that's going to be their last multi-platform game. Everything else is going to go Xbox/PC. So,
do you think that's in response to when I know it was about earlier this year? Yeah, I think it was earlier this year. Sony responded saying that they're still going to be going strong with single-player games. It's one of their biggest selling points.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, if you look at what the PS4 and Sony did that made
so many exclusives.
Made them win the generation. All their exclusives were single-player games, right?
Yeah.
When you're talking about multiplayer games, those are all third-party games, right? You're talking Call of Duty
they have to be third-party at this point in time in order for them to make more money with microtransactions, loot crates, esports. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So the exclusive games that people are wanting to play, they're willing to buy systems for, are the single player games. I mean, at least I know that's where I come from. It's like, okay, I want to play these particular single player games. So, I think with Halo, that's an exclusive. Obviously, Halo has the single player and multiplayer component to it. But whatever future stuff is coming out, I would guess that a good majority of them would be single player.
I mean, if they look at the track history.
The thing about that, though, is that's. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what next year brings. If Xbox is just gonna blow the roof off the place during their E3 press conference that year, but I don't think they're gonna have a crazy amount of launch titles with the Scarlet outside of Halo Infinite that will already be available on the Xbox One. So if they're thinking, we want to release the Scarlet as soon as we possibly can, and then we'll give it a year, and we'll have a bunch of great exclusives. That's a long time if you're a consumer. That's a long time for you to be like, I'll just get the next PlayStation. They've got the new Spider-Man coming out right away. It all depends on what happens next year. I can't tell the future. Who knows? Maybe this time next year we'll be seeing that a bunch of amazing games are going to be launching on the Scarlet when it comes out in holiday 2020. But I just don't know if that's realistic, especially considering they only just recently acquired a lot of the companies that they did.
Yeah.
So the turnaround time on creating games exclusively for that console would be really quick. So, I mean, we'll see. We will see.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to next E3 announce whatever the name of the new console is, and then launch titles beyond just Halo Infinite. And I think some of those will be from those studios that they purchased, but that doesn't necessarily mean they will be launch titles.
Yeah, I do think I think the day one PC launch as well it's good for Halo, but not good for the Scarlet. Looking at that, I mean my PC is top of the end. I'd probably just get it on PC. The reason I think it's good for Halo is because of the multiplayer aspect. I think ideally, if you're pushing anything to be in the esports realm, having a PC port or just having it on PC works a lot. Well, then again, I don't know what the Scarlet or the PS5's ideas are for mouse and keyboard support, because I know a lot of people are starting to lean towards mouse and keyboard support on consoles.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
it is available now on Xbox One, and I think it's been available for a while on PlayStation. So
how many games work with it though is the issue.
Yeah.
Like, because I know on PlayStation I can plug my mouse and keyboard into, but only very few, literally maybe one handful amount of games work with the mouse and keyboard just directly plugged in.
But it's also interesting just in terms of like if you're playing a competitive game. Like if I'm jumping into Halo Online and I'm on my Xbox Scarlet or whatever it's going to be called, and I got my mouse and keyboard plugged in, does that give me an unfair advantage? Like if I'm
100%.
Ninja or something, you know, does that give me the extra advantage?
Yeah.
Or do they do something similar? I think Fortnite did this. I don't know if they still do this, but I think they did something a long while back where like if you had a controller plugged in on PC or if you had a mouse and keyboard plugged in on console, you would be filtered to match against lobbies.
Yeah, they still do that 100%. That's the best way to do it.
I think so too.
The minute you plug a mouse and keyboard in, you're playing against PC players, whether you're on PlayStation or Xbox. Then that's the way it should be, especially for competition reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Respawn Entertainment producer Tina Sanchez appears to be teasing a new character for Apex Legends. She posted on Twitter a couple pictures of her in a motion capture suit holding a cane. Actually, you know what, Caboose, let's go to you first because we haven't talked to you in a little bit. Okay. And I know what Josh's thoughts are on season 2 of Apex Legends. What are yours?
I actually started getting back into Apex very recently. Mm-hmm. Like a buddy of mine was like, "Come on, let's play Apex. You haven't played in forever." And I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I actually really love this new season. The changes to the map, having the giant Leviathans on the map is super cool. And the way that they interact with with the environment and everything is also really, really fun. So overall, I've loved the new season. I haven't played too much of the latest Legend. Was it Watson?
Yeah.
But I have, like, especially for competitive Apex Legends, because they have like a ranked mode, and I've been watching a lot of streamers play with the ranked mode. She seems to be like vital if you're playing a competitive team, and
especially endgame. She's so vital endgame,
yeah, just to like, you know, bunker up and make sure you're in a secure area. She has those electrical traps and everything, so she seems like a really, really important character for those specific reasons. But I think for like the casual play, I don't know if she is entirely useful. Unless you're an extremely defensive player, in that case, then she is going to be very useful. But yeah, she looks like really, really, really fun. And Apex Legends overall, I've been really enjoying it. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they're working on new Legends a long while back when the game first came out. There was a lot of stuff found within the in-game files that
the data mined
a laundry list of Legends that they're working on. So, I mean, this game is still striving. It's still doing really, really well. Like they're getting plenty of people playing it, plenty of people still watching it. In fact, I've been hearing lately, because of Fortnite's latest season and some of the new things that they've added, people are really not a fan, and they want to play Apex as protests to remove those things.
I love these protests that people have. It's hilarious. Whether it's in the gaming world or the movie or television world, the petitions and
the fans have the power,
the protests, and it's just it's very, very fantastic. Funny.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So, I mean, I've been seeing a lot more people playing Apex, which is awesome. I think this is still such a solid battle royale. It's from the people who made Titanfall, and Titanfall is the most underrated first-person shooter. So that said, the handling and everything, the way that the game works is incredible. So, you know, I'm excited to see what's to come.
Oh, by the way, I finished Titanfall 2. Speaking of underrated. Yes. Fantastic. So good. I think I haven't had that much fun on a single player FPS probably since, I want to say, like Halo 3 maybe.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Maybe Halo Reach as well.
I think the last like good FPS single player that I really enjoyed was, I mean, probably just Modern Warfare, the original one, not the remake or the reboot.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because a lot of the folks who worked on Modern Warfare ended up moving to Respawn to make Titanfall. So, like, I'd say those are some of the most experienced people in the business when it comes to first-person shooters, which makes sense considering how good Titanfall 1 and 2 are, in my personal opinion. And then Apex
one doesn't have a single player, right? For Titanfall.
Titanfall 1 does not.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I never got it because it didn't. It was only.
But it was still such a solid FPS. Like, it just. The controls, the mechanics of it, the wall running, the movement speed, and all that stuff. And obviously, getting into a giant mech suit is awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I love those games. I hope that one of the things that they have planned for Apex in the future is to add the Titans in like a
that would be cool.
Mode, so.
Yeah.
Well, Fortnite already did that.
I mean, yeah, kind of, I guess. But it would be nice to see a big ass Titan. I do like. I think. Well, I'll go back to the character in a second, but the thing I enjoy about Apex just coming out in general, like the entire thing as is, it set the bar for a lot of other first-person shooters. It also introduced a lot of mechanics that I now see most first-person shooters are going to start employing those mechanisms. Like Borderlands 3 is going to have the pinging, the sliding. Like once you experience sliding around in Apex, it's kind of difficult to go back to not sliding around and having that mobility. So I know a lot of games are going to be adding that. I am really excited for the new character because it doesn't look like it's going to be a defensive character. As much as I think Watson's a great character, but not for my play style. So this, at least from
I'm
what,
a Wraith kind of guy.
From what the data mining's been showing, it looks like this new character is going to be, the cane she was holding is supposed to be, I guess, a sword. They're just using the cane as a prop for the motion capture, but it's going to be titled the Death Sword. That's what the data miners have picked up.
Is that going to be the alt then, I guess?
I think so, yeah. Her using a sword, which...
That's
her awesome. Or he. Yeah, it's going to be really cool. To have like a melee character like that makes me think of Zero from Borderlands. Have you, Caboose, have you been stomped on by a Leviathan yet?
I've not. I have been very weary that the Leviathans can stomp on the ground like that, and I have been watching out for it. I watched one of my teammates get stomped, and that was pretty fun.
Yeah, I was about to say, I had a friend of mine who got stomped.
Pay close attention to that.
Yeah, he looked at me and he's like, I didn't think it was going to put its foot down. I was like, what did you think it was going to do? Like, are you kidding me?
That's what I love about it, though, is that they can like interact with the actual like game in that way. I think that's cool.
Yeah,
it adds like new flavor to the to some intense battle that you might be in.
Well, speaking of, just because I know you've been playing it recently, a good combo I enjoy is the Caustic, Watson, and the Medic combo. I forget her name right now. Lifeline.
Oh, Lifeline?
There we go, yeah. That is like the best defensive combo you can have. If you're indoors, as long as you use the tactics right, you're pretty much set.
That and the alternator is like the greatest gun in the game now, apparently.
Oh yeah,
because they got that new attachment for it.
Yeah, I forget what it's called, but not the pulse rounds, but it's they shoot through the shields. They just damage your health. Oh, it's so good.
That's nuts.
Looking at the article, I know. So we saw the screenshots of her in her motion capture gear, and there was another person in motion capture gear.
Yeah.
My suspicions about that is is not another character. He's just there to help them do the mocap on the new finishers.
Probably.
Yeah, that's probably what the case is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, then they might just be doing mocap for characters even further down the line, as well as whatever they got coming up recently.
They got like 30 or 40 characters coming out eventually.
Yeah. But I'd say your theory is probably correct. They just have other mocap people in there because there's a bunch of finishers that they do in the game, and I'm sure they got people who are taller and stuff like that. Obviously, for to do the mocap for a Caustic, getting a finisher done on them or something.
Everyone's
like that,
got a different hitbox. Yeah.
All right. Oh, before we move on, because also we haven't talked to Caboose in a while. What did you think of the whole ninja thing moving to Mixer?
I mean, I'm sure there was a very ridiculous amount of money.
Oh yeah.
And listen, so there's two sides to it that I see. One side is, regardless of how many subs he's getting right now, those are all free. Those are all subs. Like, I can go on Mixer right now and subscribe for free. I don't have to sign up my credit card or anything.
For the first 2 months.
For 2 months. When those 2 months are up, that'll be the real answer to whether or not the move was worth it, because he has hit the reset button. Switching from Twitch over to Mixer has hit the reset button on the amount of people that are going to be watching him, on the amount of people that are going to be subscribing to him. Right now it is hot. Right now there's a lot of people watching him still because they got 2 months free on that subscription so they can interact in the chat. But
very true.
Once those 2 months is up, then it becomes a question. I mean, I still think even if it tanks after 2 months for Ninja on Mixer, he could have retired yesterday and been set for life. So I don't think he's too worried about it. And I think that's why it makes sense. This is where I transition into the other side of it, is that it's a big risk, but at least it's something fun for him. You know, it spices things up. It changes up the game of streaming. Maybe this can be the thing that sends the message to Twitch, hey, take care of your streamers, watch what they're doing, interact with them, be involved. Don't let them throw a cat over their head and not get banned for it. Don't let them spit vodka into a cat's mouth and not get banned for it.
Don't let them go and film into a bathroom.
Anyways, like all that stuff, like hopefully Twitch is now going to be a little more responsive to things like that and be like, hey, we got to save our platform. We literally lost the face of our platform, and that person has some really good friends that are also big streamers on our platform that he can convince to move over to Mixer. I don't think they will. Like, I don't think you'll see a Tim the Tatman and Dr. Lupo and all of them moving over to Mixer, because for them it's even bigger of a risk than it would be for Ninja.
I know Dr. Disrespect specifically said that he would only move to Mixer if he gets the same deal as Ninja or better.
Right. Exactly. I can and
he must have his reasons.
No offense to the Doc, he's the 2-time, but the Doc's not getting Ninja's offer to move to Mixer.
Not since the fiasco of him being in the bathroom. Yeah.
Right.
While we're on the topic, though, I did read this week that Twitch is going to be releasing their own streaming software to be able to make it easier for people to get into video game streaming.
So you like OBS or whatever? Something
I'd
similar to
imagine
OBS? Yeah.
Similar to OBS. I didn't look too much into it, but it makes sense. You know, it's probably going to be more streamlined with their actual service itself and the way it works. So yeah, I guess we'll only see how that ends up once it comes out. I'm definitely going to try it out when it comes out, if it streamlines the process for me. I enjoy OBS as well, but if there's like a package where I can do it all in one and not have to like switch between multiple programs, I'm sold.
And how do you like the announcement too, Caboose? Like the way we kind of criticized the kind of cheesy promo ad that came out.
It was. I mean, it was really, really cheesy for sure, but. I mean, whatever. It was a jokey little way to announce it, and it shook up the internet for a day.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
You know, in the end, like, Ninja's a smart person. He's got the right management. He's got the right PR people working with him. So anything that they market in that similar fashion will get a lot of traction. And it also was a real good help for Ninja that at the time he makes the move, he's at Lollapalooza streaming with a crowd behind him. You know, that was definitely super helpful. Because
that was the right move.
Yeah. And I mean, Mixer's just overall a good platform. Like, I know that some people criticize it and they say, hey, it's never going to be as big as Twitch. It's not, no, but it's still a really great platform. I think that it has some really great services available there, and there's a lot good about Mixer, at least from what I can see. And at the end of the day, if Microsoft's going to keep throwing money at it, it's not going away anytime soon. It's been around for a long while now, and knowing Microsoft and the way that they've handled, you know, the Xbox One and some of the other things that they've been doing, they're not going to just let it die. They're not going to let it just fade out of existence, and this is one of those things that reassures that point, or it confirms that point that, hey, Microsoft's not going to let this die. So, I mean, it's all, we'll see where it goes from here.
Twitch needs that competitor for sure. A big time competitor where it's like, it's the same thing. The reason why, even though I don't really use the Epic Store, I'm glad that it exists, because it makes Steam take a look at itself and think, okay, we got some changes we need to make. So I think that's the same thing with Twitch. They're going to look at Mixer and go, okay, there's a couple things we can change. You know what I mean?
Hey, to reel it back in as well. I mean, same thing with like when Apex Legends first came out. There's a lot of mechanics that was introduced in Apex Legends that have since now been introduced in Fortnite.
Correct.
Respawning, you know, all the whole 9 yards, pinging and all that stuff. So competition is always good, and if Mixer can potentially grab a couple of other streamers that are big and will bring more traction to their platform, then we'll have some serious competition between Twitch and Mixer, and it's only healthy at that point, because one is striving to be better than the other, and that just means at the end we win because of it, because they're going to just start listening to the people who are consuming the entertainment.
Are there any like sports tied to either Twitch or Mixer? Because I think that's going to be a big win for whoever gets like exclusive streaming rights to like the NFL or something. You know,
I don't know if they do anything like that in terms of like streaming. You know,
because I know it's gaming. I know it's gaming heavy, but if they were doing other live events as well, that would at least in terms of like.
I'll tell you what, most major sports event that takes place, someone is streaming it on Twitch when they're not allowed to.
True. A very good point.
But there's never instances on Twitch where they're like, hey, we're hosting, you know, the Super Bowl or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, you know, those type of things need to look into streaming and then like doing something there, and they can get a cut at, you know, the ad revenue.
I know ESPN were looking at like doing something with Twitch a couple of years ago. I don't know if that's still in the mix or not.
Because if people are going to legally do it anyways, might as well provide a official one that they're making money off of.
Exactly, rather than losing.
Yeah, because you know, especially with people cutting the cord now, it's like some people don't have even the regular channels or whatnot.
Right.
All right. Let's move on. The Outer Worlds. Difficulty levels. So
I'm excited about this.
There's 4 difficulty options: story, normal, hard, supernova. The one I want to talk about the most is supernova because, with story, it's like, okay, it's easier for you to play, so you can kind of enjoy the story without getting too caught up in like, how difficult it is. Normal is normal. Hard, they kind of make enemies and a little bit harder to kill. Your health goes away a little easier. Supernova, on the other hand, it's
just another name for hardcore.
Yeah, this is like super hardcore. Okay, so you can only pick this difficulty at the beginning of when you start a game, right, or campaign. Once you're allowed to drop down, like if you're like, screw it, it's too hard, you're allowed to drop down to hard, normal, whatever the hell you want to. But after that, you can't go back up to supernova. Supernova, you can only...
It's a commitment.
Yeah, you got to complete it.
Yeah.
And not only that, other than enemies having more health and dealing more damage, you must drink, eat, and sleep to survive.
Yeah, the survival mechanics.
Your companions can die permanently.
Damn.
Let's see. Crippled body and limb conditions can only be healed with a bed rest, so you can't do that with you can't do a med kit and be like, okay, my leg is better now.
It's a lot more real, yeah.
Yeah.
The durability matters a lot now as well.
You can only fast travel to your ship,
which I think is cool. Like that's really
so that
cool.
means you've got when you're in areas, you've got to go from place to walk from place to place. You can only sleep inside, and it says accepting flaws is mandatory. So flaws.
I was going to ask you about that because you played it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So flaws are these they're kind of like perks, except they have negative connotations to it. So, and you can kind of choose whether to accept them or not. So they'll be like, okay, if you accept this flaw, let's say your health goes down by X amount, but your dexterity goes up by X amount of points. So it's one of those things where you're giving and taking.
Okay.
So perks is always a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Flaw is something that's it's a double-edged sword. You get a good and a bad. So in this mode, it's once you get a flaw, and they kind of just pop up.
Just from what you do?
Yeah, from what you do.
Okay.
They're saying you got to take it. So whatever it says,
I've always been a huge fan of any kind of hardcore mode, just because of the commitment. When Minecraft came out with its hardcore mode, I hadn't been playing for years, but I was so ready for that. Any kind of game where you have permadeath, it's just the high stakes, man. It is so exhilarating. Yes, this game is going to be the mode is a lot more difficult, and I would probably take my time with it and take a whole year to finish the game at that point because I'm not the best player.
I feel like it'd be a mode you'd play not as your first go around.
Oh, definitely not. No.
Yeah,
I would do normal first, and then I'd probably switch to Supernova because I love I love survival games. I love the aspect of looking
this
after
is real survival.
Oh yeah.
You can only manually save inside your ship. So you can't just, one of the things that I do all the time in Fallout is I do something, save. Do something, save. You know what I mean?
You're not going to have that, yeah.
And autosaves are limited. They do still have autosaves, but you can't manually save.
It kind of reminds me of old school gaming as well, where you had to walk to the frickin' save point. I remember I was playing Kingdom Hearts a while ago, and Jack would always be like, hey, can I watch TV? I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to get to a save point. I can't just save right now. I have to actually get to one.
I always remember that in the old God of War games too.
Oh, yeah.
It would be the greatest sigh of relief when you could see that save when you're like, finally.
Oh, and you can take a break.
Easy a little bit, even when you're on those long game sessions and you're like, I need to save before I can turn this freaking game off. Having those manual saves is crazy. This all sounds insane. The last time that I remember, I'm sure it's happened before this, but to my memory, the last time I remember where there was a mode like this in a game that I was anticipating, it was Batman Arkham Origins, I think.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyone who's watching or listening, correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure there was a mode in Arkham Origins where it's if you die, no matter where you are in the game, that's it. You're starting back from the beginning.
That's pretty cool. That's the one Arkham game I never got to play out of the series.
Oh,
that sounds really cool though.
Super, super underrated. I think it's the best written game of the franchise. It's not the best, but it's the best written game of the franchise in my opinion. and it's so criminally underrated. But yeah, this is awesome. I mean, I'm not gonna play this mode because I'll die immediately probably. But for anyone who's like that kind of hardcore gamer, if you're really into the Fallout sort of games, this is right up your alley. This, I feel,
because the Fallout games also had that survival aspect as well.
Yeah,
that I guess they're pulling from.
Yeah, you can do that survival mode or whatever, hardcore survival mode.
I do like that your weapon's durability is so vital in this supernova mode, where if your weapon's durability is low or pretty much like not even there, your weapons just don't work. Yeah. I don't know if they don't work, but they don't work nearly as well as what they should. All
right. Moving on to this next subject. There's these two games. One is like heavily inspired by game. And one is just like a direct ripoff.
Like a reskin.
Yes. For The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So there's two games. There's Decay of Logos. Oh, I don't know how they pronounce it. Logos or Logos.
Your guess is as good as mine.
But I mean, it looks like Breath of the Wild, the kind of the art style, the type of game it is. But at the same time, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure it's heavily inspired by it, but, like a lot of animation styles and games are very similar to other games that they get inspired by.
It's difficult to copyright style as well. That's one of the issues that is the biggest underlying issue there. I don't
think Breath of the Wild was the first game to. I mean, obviously, in terms of the third-person angle and all that stuff, it does look very similar. But I don't know if like Breath of the Wild was the first of its kind to ever invent stylistic game.
Even Wind Waker was kind of similar stylistically. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. But I saw this happening, and I'm all for it. I think literally when I look at E3 this year, I saw two other games that
Ubisoft has one.
Yeah, Ubisoft has one that looks a lot like it. But it's one of those things where once again, The Legend of Zelda was such a good game. Obviously, other studios are going to take a look at it and go, okay, we need our Legend of Zelda. And I think I'm not a big fan of the one that's pretty much exactly just a reskin of the game, because that's like put a bit more work into your game, you know what I mean? But I'm looking forward to Ubisoft's game. I'm even the Decay of Logos. Like, I don't know if it's my type of game, but I'm just excited to see more developers going that angle, you know what I mean? Rather than still just churning out the exact same FPS like experience,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this other one, instead of being heavily inspired by or very similar to, this is like a straight up rip-off.
And which one are we talking about? Is this Genshin?
Genshin Impact. Okay. So this is a Chinese PlayStation 4 game. So instead of Nintendo's Switch, it's on the PlayStation 4.
Isn't the combat just like a ripple from Dynasty Warriors as well?
Yeah. They've kind of just reskinned the game, and it has like this. It's weird watching the animation because then they have Chinese voices, which, you see those characters and you expect either the original Japanese voices or you expect an English dub or whatever, but it's in Chinese. But apparently at this China Joy Gaming Expo, Zelda fans went in and found the booth and destroyed PS4s in protest over this. So
what?
Yes,
that's crazy.
Yeah, because in China the copyright rule. That's why China does a lot of like bootlegs and copying.
Because you can't really it's difficult to tie them down to the copyright laws.
But yeah. So apparently some hardcore fans, Zelda fans, went to the gaming expo and wrecked some shop.
I mean, if it is,
that does not make Zelda fans look good, if you're asking me, regardless of what you think.
Yes,
of how the game looks and its similarities to Legend of Zelda. That's just really, really dumb, in my opinion. There's a lot better of a way to protest this or to be like, hey, what's going on here, than to trash a booth.
Yeah,
because the people who set up that booth had probably nothing to do with this game and are just there to work the booth.
I do think mob mentality plays like a role in that. Like, I don't think half the people who went and destroyed that thing maybe wanted to. It's just mob mentality is a crazy thing. I mean, most fan bases are incredibly toxic when they're in large groups together. the Rick and Morty fan base. I love that show, but the fan base is so toxic.
Well, yeah, and that whole thing with the Szechuan sauce.
Oh my god!
Like going,
people crying for the Szechuan sauce, like throwing tantrums in McDonald's.
Yeah, and also getting like super. I mean, McDonald's had their problems in terms of not stocking enough or whatever, but at the same time, I'm a big Rick and Morty fan. Like, oh, they sold out.
Oh well,
that sucks.
Then
I leave. Then I leave.
I'm gonna move on with my life.
Yeah, exactly. Which, by the way, I went like a week or two later and got it and ate it.
I love how it's like, I think now it's just like permanently part of their thing, and people don't even order it nearly as much anymore.
No. It's a bunch of entitled fans. So, yeah. I
mean, I don't know. The games, they still, I can understand why people would, say, oh, hey, this looks similar to Legend of Zelda and stuff, but I'm assuming they're still very much their own games. They just have inspiration to that art style. And
well, the Logos one is, but the Genshin is like a straight up like
it's just it's like a retexture. It's like they use their resources, which is, I mean, obviously illegal, but I don't know what the laws are like in China. You know what I mean?
Much more lax when it comes to that stuff.
I'd imagine, yeah. I mean, if you just look at the App Store, the amount of like rip-off games you get, that it's literally just other people's games, but with a new face on it.
It's also like if you go to other countries and you have toys, and it's like spider guy. Yeah, spider.
Iron person.
Yeah, and they got to look almost the same, but the little things different here and there or whatnot. So, all right, this is something new. Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony are working on a new policy for loot box probability.
As they should.
So they are saying that the game studios or whoever's publishing it needs to disclose the odds for every item that comes in a loot box. That way, the odds and chances of you getting a particular item. So it's not like, oh, I heard this is super rare, I'm just going to keep buying loot boxes until I get it, when you don't know that, oh, this is 1 in 100,000. You know what I mean? That you're not going to get,
I think that's good as well for the people who work with, correct me if I'm wrong here, videogameexchange.org, which is the website that you can sell digital items on, you know what I mean, rare equipment. It's a lot easier to put a price on something when you know the probability of getting it. You know what I mean? Yep. You can't just be like, look, this is ultra rare. I want to know how ultra rare. What's the chances of me getting it? If it's incredibly slim, maybe I'll buy it. You know what I mean? From someone else on Game Exchange.
Yeah. I mean, personally, you know how I feel about these loot boxes. I'm not a fan of them. I'm not about purchasing these in-game items or whatever, and so
I mean, it's that whole gambling thing, and I think of it. I have a lot of friends who live in either like Vietnam, Thailand, a lot of other places where like their gambling laws are very strict. So it's like they couldn't even get the new GTA, the new update, the gambling one. They couldn't play that. They had no access to it, and it's like it's pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie, but it's. It's something that needs to get regulated so things like that don't happen. You know what I mean? So people can have access to those, but they do need to be.
What countries are those banned?
I know my friend in Vietnam can't play it.
Yeah, like Asian people are big gamblers.
That's probably why.
Like they have a very if you go to Vegas, you'll see there's a lot of Asian people there gambling from other countries and whatnot, and because that makes sense. Yeah, and then I think
I could be wrong, but one of my friends in Europe as well, he couldn't play it either. Whether it was Germany or somewhere else. I forget where he is right now, but he had no access to it either.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good step. I mean, personally, I unless loot boxes are earned and not purchased, I'm just not a big fan of them in general, but at least this is a halfway step.
Yeah. I'm only okay with paying for loot boxes if it's only cosmetic, which is the way it should be.
Yeah, but I mean, even still, I'd rather just tell me what cosmetic thing I'm buying, right? Like, I bought cosmetic items before, but it's like because I know I'm purchasing.
Yeah, and you know what you're getting. Yeah, yes. You're not purchasing a chance to get it. You're purchasing the actual thing.
Yes, for hypothetically speaking, if I was playing Fortnite and they had a Rick and Morty skin, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy a Rick and Morty skin for my character.
Pickle Rick.
Yeah, and it doesn't add any type of enhancement to I don't have any more advantage or whatever. It's purely just a skin.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And you know what the skin looks like before you buy it. You can see it, you can rotate it around, and you're like, all right, if I am now making the decision because I know what this looks like and I know what it is.
Well, I mean, that's exactly
and I feel
exactly what they're doing.
And I feel okay paying for it because I know that they had to pay some sort of licensing fee,
of course,
to Rick and Morty to purchase or to be able to use it, and then also you had someone to come in and model it or whatever. You know what I mean? So.
Right.
That's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the way they do it anyways, which is good. You can take a look at it.
This is probably starting to become like the beginning of the end for this whole loot box and
surprise
all the
mechanics,
craziness around it in video games nowadays. If Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo are all banding together to be like, hey, we're not just gonna let this slide anymore. You guys gotta like give us the deets on how this stuff works in your game before we allow it, then I feel like more and more we're going to see devs like, yeah, we can't really get away with this as much as we used to anymore, so we can't really include this stuff to the fullest extent anymore. So,
well, I mean, yeah, they have to listen now because it's the people who are making the consoles are banding together. Like they're
either you don't get the game sold on that platform, or you give up the info. So I mean, we'll see how things go. It's the toughest thing about getting rid of loot boxes and microtransactions and all the shady business practices behind certain games is that people buy them, people pay for them. I mean,
and that's why they keep happening.
Yeah, I believe it was reported that like Grand Theft Auto has made $1 billion alone off of microtransactions. And when you see a stat like that, and you work in business and you're making games, you'd be stupid not to continue to include microtransactions.
Oh, of course, yeah.
If it's making you $1 billion in revenue off of something in the game, not just the game itself, then like that, it'd be absurd to be like, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore because people don't like it. Like I don't want it in games, but I understand why it is because people keep purchasing it. So the only way this stuff will fully disappear is when people start to put their foot down more often, is when people stop giving up their credit cards and just emptying their wallets.
Start protesting,
on the fake video game money, and start protesting this and being like, hey, we don't really like our games to be littered with this stuff. So I think though that this is kind of the beginning and the end of it. So we'll see.
I don't have much of a problem with microtransactions. I have a big problem with loot boxes because that's just them.
Yes.
That's just them being so greedy. Where it's like, just let me buy the thing I want. Don't let me sit there and buy like 10 boxes trying to get the thing I want. That's, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's not the way it should be.
Like, listen, I love Apex Legends, but Apex Legends has those loot boxes, and it's a really shady way that the loot boxes specifically work in Apex Legends, in that you can earn them every level up. But past level 100, which is the max level, I think you only earn like a few more, and then you stop getting them entirely.
Which is like, it's a problem as well in terms of getting the new characters. Like, I haven't spent any money on Apex. I've been getting all the characters myself by working, like playing the game, getting the Apex packs. But it's like you said, once you get to that point, it's like if you want the new character and you're not getting the Apex packs and you're not getting the crafting materials from those packs, you're gonna have to like fork out the $10 to buy the character.
Right. Yeah. Right. You're gonna have to either fork up the money for that, or if you're like, I want to get that new legendary skin for that character. I want to, I got to get some more packs for the chance to get it.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. That's actually a really good topic to think about right there.
Like, I understand for the sake of Apex, I can sort of let it slide because it's free to play. The game's got to be funded somehow.
Yeah. True.
But it's still, it's still hard to look at it and be like, this is okay. It's still hard to look at it and be like,
at least it's not going to be as bad as E3 when Battlefront 2 came out, and it's like, hey, you can get this character by putting 40 hours in, or you can buy it, and everyone's like, well, what's the point of putting the 40 hours in then? You know,
40 hours is a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah. I could be wrong. It's either 30 or 40, but it was a lot of time you'd have to get in to unlock those characters.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous amount. Yeah. So I mean, Battlefront 2 is obviously the prime example.
Hopefully everyone learns from that.
Microtransactions in the game.
We are at the end of that cycle, though, for sure. Like you said, just because of the backlash from the community and all the other developers are jumping on board. I definitely think we're going to be seeing the end of surprise mechanics or loot boxes. At least in terms of consoles. I think it's still going to be around on PC because there's so many like indie games, and like getting a game on Steam is ridiculously easy. Like I could probably develop like some kind of solitaire game, put it on their Greenlight service for like a couple weeks, and then hopefully it gets picked up.
Yep.
All right. speaking of Steam, Epic Game Store. So I picked this one because I'm still a little confused by the backlash. So developer Ben Wase, he wrote a blog post talking about how he's been getting these like hateful, threatening messages because his indie game has a timed exclusivity deal with Epic Games to launch first on the Epic Game Store. Their game Oblets. Yep. It's crazy. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand why people are upset because, as I understand it, you know, the Epic Game Store is a competitor to the Steam Store, right? Mm-hmm. They both play on the PC. Just install the stupid the barrier of entry is 0, right? Like when you have an Xbox, right, and you have exclusive game on there, and you have a PS4, if you want to play that game, you got to buy a whole $300, $400 console and whatnot, and then you got to play that game. Same vice versa with the PS4, right? If I want to play Spider-Man, I got to buy. There is no barrier of entry.
You just have to create an account.
Yeah,
that's all you have to do.
I don't understand. This is what boggles my mind. One, I don't think people should be so entitled because it's their game and they made a deal with it. One, it's a timed exclusivity. So
it's not a permanent exclusive either. It's just but I agree. It's so silly because all it takes is you to just set up an email account, download the Epic Game Store. I have the Epic Game Store and the Steam Store. It's not killing my hard drive. It's not killing my PC. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so silly.
So I don't understand this. And, you know, from what I've read is that the Epic Game Stores gives a bigger cut they give, I think, what is it, like 88% versus 70%. Steam gives 70. I think Epic gives 88.
Because they have to have something to have people bring them over to their side.
And I'm sure they gave him, you know...
And a very good deal, because he's developing the game with his wife, I think.
Yeah.
It's like very small. Of course they're going to take the deal.
Yeah, and Epic offered them a minimum guarantee on sales as well. So I don't understand this backlash. I don't...
Why send the guy threats is what I'm understanding. I get being upset,
I don't get either. It's an indie game, and they're being offered an 80-20 split to be put on a platform where the biggest PC game on the planet is held. Why would they not?
Oh, man, it's absurd.
Yeah, we want our game on your Epic Games launcher. Listen, you don't have to like the Epic Games launcher. If you're upset with it that much,
you can delete it once you install the game.
Like, if you don't like it, then protest against it and be like, I don't like it. Don't attack the developers who are putting their games on the platform.
They're making business decisions.
And it's like now it's affecting their lives, you know? It's affecting the way they're going to bring their game out.
On the internet sometimes. I mean, the internet really surprises me with how crazy people get over their video games. But this is a bad look on people and how crazy they get about their video games.
Oh, 100%.
Like, come on, like if you were put in their shoes, you're an indie developer who is trying to make it. You know, you're like, listen, we really want to get our game out in the forefront. And you've been offered by the people that house Fortnite, the guys who house the biggest game on the planet, and the millions and millions that play the game have the Epic Games launcher. And they're like, we're going to put your game on that same platform. And you're going to get a better split than you would if you put your game on Steam.
They'd be stupid not to take it.
Yeah, you would be an idiot. You know, I'm sorry. Maybe there's some people out there who are like, I wouldn't do that. I would have integrity. No. Okay, please.
You know what the equivalent of this is? Okay. As everyone knows and listens, I have an Xbox One. I do not have a PS4, right? Uh-huh. Plenty of PS4 games I would want to play. I want to play God of War and play Spider-Man. I even just bought Last of Us, the remastered one, because we talked about they had that free thing. Well, it was free. It's like you buy it for $15 and they give you. I bought it just so, like, I think Dorian has his PS4 here, so I can play it on there.
And he doesn't use that thing anymore. Yeah.
But my point is, it's the equivalent to me going, I want to play Spider-Man on the PS4. Yeah. Oh man, I gotta buy a $400 console. Oh, guess what? They're gonna give me the console for free, and then I can play that game. What's there to complain about? just because I can't play it on my Xbox. I prefer the Xbox, but
I mean, you're absolutely. I mean, the Epic Games Store, like we said, installing it is free. You're not paying $400 to use the Epic Games Store. You know what I mean? I think of TV shows being on like either Hulu or Netflix or whatever. I haven't seen people like hit up Seth Rogen and be like, "Yo, why isn't The Boys on Netflix?"
Yeah.
You know, like sending him death threats, being like, "You're stupid for doing this." You know?
Yeah.
Oh, it's
exactly. That's the best way to put it. You know, like there's just this is a really, really frustrating topic. I feel so bad.
I can feel you getting heated.
Yeah, I feel so bad for the developer in question. I mean, there's a quote here that says, I've been crying nonstop for the last 2 days and feeling like the world has collapsed around me. Like, no one should ever feel that way over creating a video game, man. Like, you have done it. You have done the hardest part of the job. You have made the game.
Especially when it's your own video game, you know?
No, it's just, this is so bad.
And there's nothing shady about what he's doing. It's not like he made the game like you buy it and then all of a sudden it's like, please insert $10 more to play the next level or something.
He didn't promise that it wasn't going to be an exclusive. You know what I mean? He never once said, "Hey, it's not going to be on there."
Very frustrating. I mean, it's
I just don't know what people are upset about.
It's just a really frustrating topic.
I mean, they're the same type of people who would swap people. You know?
I can understand why some people have an issue with the Epic Games Launcher. As opposed to Steam, there's a lot of things missing on the Epic Games Launcher. There's a lot of things where the Epic Games Launcher, like, it's got a ways to go still in terms of functionality and just, you know, the things that it's missing in terms of, like, you know,
for sure. But I mean, Steam has got so many problems as well.
Right.
And no one ever, like, the people who are always like, "Oh, I hate the Epic Games Store." I'm like, have you used Steam recently? Like, it's so just it's flooded with like hundreds and thousands of like $2 games that no one cares about. Like, there's almost no vetting process. Like I said, getting a game on Steam is so easy. There's no vetting process basically. Yeah. It's all like like crowdfunded, going through their green light services, and it's just, I don't know, like, they're both not exactly good in my opinion, but only time's going to change that, you know? They can only get better.
Just give them your feedback. Stop saying we're going to boycott your platform. Give them your feedback.
Preach.
Be like, change this, do this, get this implemented. Like, if you keep going, you guys suck. Nothing's going to change.
That's horrible input, you know?
You know, if I wasn't a fan of Dennis, you know, if Dennis did something wrong that I disagreed with, and I was like, "Dennis, I hate you," and I just said that all day
Happens
long.
all the time.
What would that do to Dennis? What is Dennis gonna do? You know, he's not gonna understand what I'm upset about, or
he's
what
not gonna know how to fix it.
If I say to Dennis, "Hey, I think that you should do this, and that different," maybe we can get somewhere. Maybe we can find a compromise. But if you just keep screaming and you know, just smearing your face across the keyboard, hoping that something's gonna stick, it's not.
It's also this issue of like I think the developers, well, not even the developers, everyone's very enabling about the whole thing. Like, it's difficult because that tactic, as horrible as it is, it has worked like very well in other cases, which is unfortunate. But then people are like thinking like, "Oh, I'm doing the right thing here because it worked with this game, or it worked with this studio."
Or for example, when you think it works, but it actually didn't, like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man skin for the game. Like,
in the case of Epic Games, though, it's not going to work.
It's like
you can yell at them all live long day till you're blue in the face. They have Fortnite on their launcher.
Yeah, I was about to say, as long as they're making money, nothing's changing.
Yeah. You're not changing their mind. They got Fortnite on their platform. End of story. The end. Unless Fortnite dies, that Epic Games launcher will be how they want it to be, unless you actually provide some constructive criticism here, which some people do. I don't want to out every single person on the internet. There are definitely a lot of people out there who are like, "Hey, I want this change. We want this change. You know, this needs to be better." But there are a lot of people who are just like, let's yell at them and tell them they're stupid and that we hate them, and that'll work. You know, like it's not.
Like I said, it worked well in some places, but we're getting to that time now where it's not going to work anymore. Like, I think the last stand where that worked was probably for the Sonic film, and I don't see that happening again anytime soon.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of heated, we're gonna get into something much bigger here. So
a little political.
Yeah. Well, let me talk about the news item, and then it leads to a much bigger picture. So Vice is reporting that Walmart employees have received memos from the corporate headquarters asking for immediate removal of any signs, displays referencing violence, which includes video games. I mean, it also includes movies as well. They also, even in the hunting season videos, in the sporting goods sections as well. So, obviously this is due to the mass shootings. One took place in a Walmart. So they've said even display units of PlayStation and Xbox games cannot be violent. So you're not going to go to a Walmart and see the latest Wolfenstein game on display. This, opens a whole can of worms because you have, people after these two, it was 3 shootings in when it happened in like a week's time, blaming video games as the problem for this. You had some congressmen, you had President Trump himself saying that video games were there. I remember, I forgot who exactly said, the thing that was missing was God and too much video game. Like, people weren't praying enough to God, and there was a lot of... So let's try and talk about this as calmly as possible.
I think the Walmart thing, that's just their, okay, let's take a look at what Walmart's doing as is. At front value, I think they're just covering their asses because of what happened. You know what I mean? They're doing this but
they're still selling guns. That's the thing. It's not
that's why I think it backlashed for them. It's this thing of look, we're helping, but no, not really. You're still selling guns,
and they're still selling the games as well. I mean, it's not like you can't buy
they just can't be on display. Yeah.
Yes,
but the guns can be on display. It's so stupid. It's. Oh man, I see them someone in corporate was like, this is a great idea, and now I think it's gonna blow up more in their face in the next couple of days. I think in the next couple of weeks we're gonna see it. Just, the stupidity of it, the hypocrisy of it all, the irony of it's insane. I don't know how a room full of people decided that this would be a great idea, and not one person in that room went, "Oh, we're still gonna keep the guns on display, though, right?" Is that a good idea?
Yeah.
Oh man, absurd.
I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. Video games are not the problem. They are the kind of the scapegoat here.
Yes.
Kind of the let's just shift the blame sort of thing.
Yeah, no one wants to talk about mental illness.
Subject. I don't want to I don't want to offend anyone, but that is my stance on it, is that video games are not the problem. I play plenty of violent video games myself. I've never I don't have a violent bone in my body. I've never gotten in a fight in my entire life.
Yeah, we haven't seen you on the news for anything bad, so.
Right. So, and I mean, if it was the problem, wouldn't this be happening all around the world? Kind of thing?
Yes.
Exactly.
There's a very viral tweet that went out that listed 2019 mass shootings. They list all these different countries that had 0.0001113.
Yeah.
And then the U.S. with 249. And, I think a lot of people point to Japan. Japan is a big consumer of video games. It is a smaller country than the U.S., but
there's no guns in Japan either. Cops don't even have guns in Japan.
So per 1,000 people or whatever. I mean, Japan, a country of 128 million. We have, I think, 300 and something here in the U.S. So it's 1/3, but they don't have 1/3 the mass shootings that we do. I mean, not even 1/10, not even 1/100.
They don't even have that many. I think because of the issue of getting guns out there, they're more likely to be stabbings than shootings.
Yes, but
and even those are minimum. There's very few of those.
Yeah, I think that's one of the arguments I hate when people bring up. It's oh yeah, but people still stab people. It's yeah, but how many people can one person stab?
Right.
Versus
mowing
someone
down a
has
fucking
assault
crowd of people.
Yes, and also it's much easier for a group of people to take down a guy with a knife than it is a guy with an assault weapon.
I'm a lot more willing to try to tackle someone with a knife than to try to tackle someone with a gun.
Yes.
As a bystander, I'm a lot more willing to do that. This is an issue that's been ongoing for years now, and I think straying away from, because we all know, anybody listening to this right now, we all know video games they're not the problem. You know what I mean? If video games are the problem, then half the TV shows and movies we watch are the problem too. And they're not going to ever stop that. As long as they're making tax off of that, that's not going to come to an end either. But no one ever wants to talk about the mental illness aspect to it. No one, and this is going to be a bit heavy for this podcast, but no one in their right mind goes into a building with a gun, unloads that gun, and thinks to himself, "Oh, I'm going to walk out of this alive." No, like it's literally a suicide mission that they go on, and I think they make that decision to do that, which is horrible. But then it's like we're not even vetting places like 8chan, 4chan. It's so many other places where this problem could be coming from, rather than video games. I mean, like, and not even all video games are violent. Like, look at Animal Crossing. You know, I mean,
yeah. I guess there's memes now of people like posting like I think what was it? It was it's that one meme of like this.
It's like the
lady,
cat face.
Yeah, the lady yelling,
the
and then
pointing at the cat face,
and then the cat face is like, "That's me." It's like the woman yelling is, "Video games are causing violence," and then the cat face, everyone's putting their own thing. It's like me after. I think one popular one was me after a character gets sad after a dialogue option I selected.
Reloading it. Yeah.
So, like, it's just one of those funny things where it's like, yeah, they're just blaming all these other things instead of taking
any kind of control or like any kind of approach to doing actual. Almost swore, but doing actual research. You know what I mean? Like doing like, it's just so like they're just pointing fingers. No one's getting up their ass and doing anything about it. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anything else on this subject?
I mean,
I've pretty much I made my point on it. I think.
Yeah, I think too. Another aspect is just being parents and teachers, and also people in authoritative positions having more. I don't know. Control's not the right word for it, but like having those conversations
with their kids
and having them understand. Because I'll say this, like, remember there was all that controversy over I forget which Call of Duty it was, but it was the No Russian.
Oh yeah,
where like you play as basically you're undercover with the Russians, but you're supposed to be a good guy.
Yeah,
and then you kind of can play the whole level like you don't have to shoot anyone because it's not required because they're just innocent bystanders.
Yeah.
But you can shoot them, and
I do remember this. Yes.
And there's no penalty.
I remember this mission as well.
Yeah.
Was this? I could be wrong. I think it was Modern Warfare 2.
Possibly. But
yeah, that whole scene took place in a shopping mall. Like, if I remember correctly.
It was either a mall or airport or something like that.
I know it was like a crowded place.
Yes.
There were like a lot of civilians.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I played the game. I did not shoot anybody because I was like, okay, these are innocent people, whatever. And it's like, I had a roommate, and he just like, I don't think he even paid attention or cared, and he was just like mowing down people.
I didn't want to implicate myself that way, but that's what I did. I didn't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
I was just a kid, and I was like, oh, I have a gun in my hand right now.
So what I'm saying is like the conversation to be had, with, I think, people playing games.
Look, kids should not be playing games that are rated R, and that's the real issue here.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said just now, parents aren't having that discussion with their kids where they're not looking at the games they're playing. You know what I mean?
Or not involved in their lives.
Exactly. I guess it is also an issue of like digital games are so easy to access.
Yes.
Like PlayStation's not asking for my ID when I buy like the latest God of War or something. Mm-hmm. They're just asking for my credit card details. That's it. And nothing else.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, it's a complicated subject. There's I'm sure a lot of different factors that go into it. Some, we're not discussing on this podcast because would turn into a big rant.
And this is a happy gaming podcast, Dennis.
But video games as the scapegoat. Yeah, that's it always will be though, right? I mean. Yeah. Video games and movies and television and entertainment. It's always going to be like, it's them.
And yeah, until someone starts actively doing something about it, it's just, like I said, it's going to be easier to point a finger at something else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And video games right now specifically, I guess, because with Trump wanting to tax it and all that, you know. I wonder if the two coincide that way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, guys. That's it for this episode of the Collider Games podcast. Thanks for everyone that's listening or watching. Josh, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram at josh.toki, and you guys can find me streaming on Twitch on Thursdays at josh_toki.
And Caboose, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at CabooseEK.
Cool. And you guys can find me on Twitter at ThinkHero or on Instagram, Dennis.tzng. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, youtube.com/ColliderGames. Subscribe to our podcast, which is on the Collider Factory feed, where we have this podcast every single week. And until next time, see you guys later.